Today is January 5th. It's 8:15 and the Hubbardston Community Preservation Committee is meeting via Zoom. And we're going to do a roll call for attendance. Sandra Berry.
Alice Livedall.
Daniela.
Susan. Go ahead.
Daniela Rakellian.
Susan Worth.
Eva Larson.
And our guest from the public is Mary Bellotti. And we have 5 of us, so that is a quorum. So we are able to move forward with the meeting. So I'm going to start with a couple things. First of all, Kayla, you did a fantastic job on the minutes. I did read them the other day. Did anyone else get a chance to read them? If not, we can just, hold those off till next meeting.
I read them. I thought they were good. But
Yeah. Okay.
I read them. I didn't have anything with
I
them.
read them. I read them also, but I just have a question on section 18 regarding, and it's hard to remember. It's the one about runs with the land. The 30-year restriction came from Stewart. The only time frame mentioned in the actual preservation is 20 years and then 99. So that was, you nailed it though, everything else, there was so much information in there. So could we just, I don't know how to correct that, or it's not regarding the 99 versus 30-year restriction there. We really aren't dealing with a 30-year, are we?
It should be 20.
Well, that's what it has in the actual document. And the only reason 30 years surfaced was because if it's longer than 30, then it has to go through the state. So that maybe just notate that.
Correction.
Other than that, that was a tremendous amount of material. She got it all.
Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I remember it being 20 years too in the contract. So
That's renewed.
Yes, renewed,
Okay.
correct. Can someone make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make that motion to accept the minutes with the one correction.
And I'll second that.
All in favor? Sandra Berry, yes.
Alice Livedall, aye. Danielle, you have to say aye.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Susan Worth, yes.
Eva Larson, yes.
All right, so the minutes pass, so that's great. Thank you again, Kayla. So the next question I wanted to ask is for Mary. So Mary, we've been having a number of meetings to meet your January 15th deadline. We're meeting tonight because to meet your deadline, we have to get this to the Board of Selectmen, which is meeting on Monday, the 10th. And then the historical, commission is going to look at that as well to make sure everyone is in agreement to sign off on this contract. So my question to you is, are you guys meeting that January 15th deadline? Because if you're not, then I feel we can discuss everything tonight, but then we don't have to rush to get everything done next week.
Yes, we will definitely need to meet that deadline. When I spoke with them this week, if we don't meet it, there will be either anywhere from a 10 to 20% increase in the cost. And that would be, so, he sent me an updated contract because with the change to the 4.5 inch siding, plus the use of a boom when they do the steeple part, it added up to another $10,000. So the total cost of the project is at $165 now, instead of $55.
Okay,
Okay. Their records, I guess.
But my question was, when I talked to you on Monday, you said the engineering study came back, which the Board of Selectmen has to approve. And you said that the engineering study had certain things that had to be done before the siding can start. So my question is your vendor willing to wait for that stuff to be done?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they said, anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 6 months, whatever we need before they start. They just need a confirmation from us, like I have to make the commitment for the loan prior to the 15th so that we can lock in the price.
So you have to make the commitment for your half and you need confirmation from the town as well that funds are available.
Yep.
Okay, so I do know that when you had asked me in regards to the vendor talking to the town, he did talk to the town accountant.
Mhm.
And the town accountant, and I think I sent an email in response to this, the town accountant did say to him, she could do the CPA payments in 2 phases. She said if he wants to purchase some materials, that can be done separate from the labor. So but I said to her, well, and I wrote back, copied everyone, well, there's X, Y, and Z that has to be done before that can be done, which is everyone agreeing on the historical preservation restriction, everyone agreeing on the grant restriction, and the Board of Selectmen being happy with the engineer study. So I sent that out because I didn't want her to let the vendor think that everything's 100% ready to go right now, because it really isn't. Okay.
Yeah, he put that in the new contract that we would make the initial payment and then 2 additional payments of 50,000 at different intervals at some point from the town based on his conversation with them. But yeah, in the study that we had done, the things that we need to accomplish before the siding goes up, we'll be able to get done, which is good, over the next months, hopefully. And then hopefully the project would start by summertime. And once they start, he's anticipating only about a week or so's time for it to actually get accomplished. So
Good.
that would be, if we got that done either in the summer or early fall, that would be great.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're on target for getting things done. But been little bits and pieces as we go along. But,
Yeah. That's good. I just didn't know if the vendor was willing to wait until you got that other stuff done. I mean, I thought he kind of wanted everything packaged up by the 15th. I wasn't sure.
they're perfectly comfortable with waiting. And whatever time frame, I had told him that we had 2 years from the time that we signed with the town to accomplish the project. And he goes, that's no problem. Whenever you're ready, we'll do it. But as long as I commit to doing the first payment with them this week. And
By the 15th. Mhm. Okay. All right, so let's move forward. So did everyone get a copy of the preservation, or they've got a way to review it or what have you?
So I'm a little bit behind here, maybe. So when I talked to you briefly,
Yeah.
I saw the document that Mary marked, which was a preservation agreement, but that wasn't the grant agreement that we went through. So has town council prepared a draft preservation restriction agreement? Or are we just working with the generic one that?
No, this is the one the town prepared.
We reviewed both at our last meeting, both the
Yeah.
document and the preservation agreement.
Okay, so the one Mary marked up was the one from town council?
Correct.
Okay.
But I don't think it has, I don't know if it has our changes from the last meeting, probably not, right?
Because
No,
it does, Mary's right, we don't have for example, we don't have a historic district in our
Correct.
zoning bylaw. We
Yes.
don't, a lot of her things are right. I just wasn't sure what was going on. So Mary, are you okay with the grant agreement? It's only the preservation restriction agreement?
the grant agreement was fine. I didn't have any questions or issues with that at all.
Okay, sorry, guys, I'm always behind. All
No,
right,
that's fine. And what Mary sent was the original one that the town made up that was sent out. It doesn't have any of the corrections from our last meeting.
okay, so So what do we need to resolve actually? And then we need to get it all in writing.
Yeah, so all we're going to do is resolve, discuss the changes that Mary, because at our last meeting, Mary hadn't had a chance to see the whole thing, and so she was kind of scrambling that night. So we gave her time to review it. And then that's what we're discussing tonight, the changes she wants to make, other than what we already agreed on, some of the language we had agreed on at our last meeting.
Okay, I hope I don't lose you guys. I'm gonna try to pull up that document. I don't have the luxury of a printer here in New Hampshire, so
That's
I'll come
fine.
back on if I lose you guys.
Okay. We'll wait for you.
I wasn't sure about any of the other changes from the last meeting, other than that one sentence that we added.
Yep, and I know Alice had sent the changes to us that we had all agreed on. I sent them to David, but he didn't get back to me with the revised version.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Okay, I got it up. So we could just walk through it, right?
Yeah, so did you bring up the one that Mary did, or do you have the one that we revised? That
No,
with the
I just have the one Mary sent.
Well,
Okay,
that's the important one at this point, right?
Well,
I did a little bit here too, that the reasoning that that I made some of these changes, especially from where it says property and building to just building. Because I know that Sandra had said they modeled this after the Williamsville Chapel, and which I understand. But my understanding is the Williamsville Chapel is owned by the Historical Commission or Historical.
it is now. It does now. It didn't at that time.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different than our situation, but I did go on to the CPC website and followed all the links for suggestions and samples of restriction agreements. And they brought me to this particular one that was from, who was it? Nantucket Athenaeum nonprofit group. Anyways, throughout the whole document, they did exactly that. The building was listed, the building is certified, the preservation of the building, significance of the building's preservation, everything was as building and not property, because they were doing, outside work or whatever they were doing to it. So that's where I was coming from with that, and that the scope of our work is the exterior of the building. And so that's why I made those changes.
I'm surprised that council didn't figure that one out, but that's a good catch, Mary, right? Because you want it to reflect accurately what we're working on, right?
Can I just interject for a minute? This wording on this contract is exactly the same in Wenham, Billerica, what the hell's the other town? There's another very upscale Boston outskirts town, like word for word is what it says on the historic preservations. Down to like no dumping of ash and trash and all the rest. I mean, that whole part, number by number, letter by letter is exactly the same. I mean, this is a boilerplate agreement
Yeah.
throughout the state.
Well, I went
Everything dreamed up.
No, I went by the one that's actually on the CPC website.
Well, I went by the deed restrictions in Billerica, Wenham, and let me grab whatever the other town was, and compared them side by side. They're exactly the same.
So hopefully it's good information. That's,
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been in place for a long time. I mean, even
Right.
the Old North Church has similar, and that doesn't even have property, has similar wording.
Yeah, well, it depends maybe on their project as well.
Most of them were buildings.
So,
A
so
couple
it sounds
were private
like
homes.
we all understand the difference between property and building. We're focusing on the building. So are we okay with changing those words consistently throughout that document? I think that's what Mary's asking, right?
Correct. Mhm.
Well, the second paragraph, the witnesseth, paragraph identifies the property correctly. The property has to stay there because that's what's in the registry of deeds is the line drawing of it. And then which property and which building are described more particularly in A, so that it wouldn't change in that paragraph. So I
Right.
don't
No,
know
I
where
didn't-
the first change picks up, but
Right.
maybe it's where Mary marked it.
I didn't changes there.
Yeah, whereas the building for the example here is a blank, so that's building, right? Whereas the original building, most of it is
No,
building already, isn't it?
We talked about this first section last time. There's a lot of these examples. I'm not sure if these are supposed to be stricken and only one that applies to our project is supposed to remain. Or do the examples stay in the final document?
No, they wouldn't unless we adopt them, right?
So
They're
should
just
we decide
examples.
which one we're
To
using,
use.
strike all the others?
I guess that's what threw me off when I was looking at this. I thought we got further than the blanks, but maybe we didn't. Anyway,
If you need wording for the blanks, I can help with that, but I think most of it's in your historical anyways, which is good. Your historical history was really well done. So the
Yeah,
blanks
the
can be,
description of it, yeah.
So we don't need to be redundant by listing it here also because it's later on in section A or B, I forget which.
It's described.
Right, except for just clarification on the historic district. I went to the concert, the brass concert at the First Parish. And on their wall, that is a historic district, meaning the common there. But I don't think it extends to the other end of town. Just so there is a historic district in town, but unfortunately, it doesn't go the whole 2 blocks or so.
oh, is that
So-
right? I always thought historic district was part of zoning.
Well, we
But
can
about-
check with Gary. He would be the one that would know for sure. Should I follow up on that? Because I'm curious. Because when I saw it on the wall, I said, oh, we do have a historic district, but it sounded like it was the church property and the common in front of it.
Yeah, I think that's probably likely. I would assume that that's right. I mean, you can check on it as a point of interest, but
I'll go ahead and follow up with Gary because, yeah, just to know. All
Yeah,
right.
see, and like you're saying, all these examples on page 2 where they're talking, they're really kind of just describing the building, which we've already described in the exhibit.
Right.
So we would
Yeah,
just,
so it seems like the very last the paragraph after the very last example,
Mhm.
as the building's preservation values are documented in exhibits A, B, and C. Sounds like that's the paragraph we want to keep.
Right.
Correct.
Not need the other example paragraphs.
So strike from the top of the page to that last one, perhaps would cover it because otherwise it's redundant, right?
Yeah, I think they're just describing it, which is what you're doing in your example, exhibit A.
Yeah.
And I think they're saying you can add all this in there just to describe it, but you don't have to.
I would say strike it because one of those paragraphs is National Register, which it isn't. I think it's just.
No, we're just on the state register.
Right, and I think the district is irrelevant. I think you could do that, just especially with the descriptions in A, B, and C, you could just skip all those whereas clauses.
Mhm.
Until the last paragraph that Kayla pointed out. That makes sense.
Okay, all right, so then we hit to the first building issue, and it is accurate representation of the building. I mean, this restriction does apply to the building unless there's some reason why the property needs to be included. I think building would be the better term, and it's defined up above in the first paragraph, I think. Building, let's see. What does it say? Where's first building occur? Where's the grantor?
Yeah, and that same first witness paragraph that you read after the book and page defined as property, which is improved by a building known as the Evangelical Church, the building.
Yeah, the building, all right.
Okay, so that's consistent then, right?
Significant, yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think you can make that change without harming this, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Mhm.
It's where it says building and property, just change it to building. Or where it says property and the building, just change it to.
Yeah, basically what I wrote. Mhm.
So that happens quite a few times, but we're all okay with that as a consistent,
Yeah,
because that takes care of the next page.
Yeah.
Until we get to section 2.2 and then A, B, C, D, E, F. Or am I going
Yeah.
to, am I
Yeah.
jumping ahead, or is that where we are?
I think that's where we are. Prohibited activity.
Okay, so Mary, then you put delete for B, C, and E?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at.
Right.
Okay. Would you mind, I'm
Because you-
putting you on the spot, but like for no dumping of ashes, trash, rubbish?
Well,
How-
that's common sense, obviously, but it doesn't need to be in the restriction when we're talking about the building. That's a
Agree.
property that relates to,
I think we have the right to say the property needs to be maintained
Yeah,
and be attractive.
it has that in other places that we're to maintain.
Yeah,
so-
but that just reinforces it. It doesn't make sense to take it out unless we think that's not a good idea. I think it's a good idea. Oops, is she there?
Action.
I think she's still there. Maybe she lost her
We
camera.
should get a phone call or something.
Oh,
yeah,
oh, right.
probably.
She might be on her phone. I mean, this whole prohibited activities, that was word for word, line for line in several of the restrictions that I read.
So there must be some
Yeah,
good
it
to it.
seems like these,
And I mean, I can't understand why we wouldn't restrict putting a barrier up that would,
yes, these restrictions seem like if they were allowed, could diminish from the historical value of the outside of the building.
I
Right.
totally agree. Yeah, that's why they're in there.
Why protect it if we have a barrier around it, or trash could lead to.
well, dumping ash could lead to fire. Did she?
Exactly, yes. Oh, probably not intentional.
Yeah, well, it's tricky with signals.
Yeah.
But I don't see how the town or this board can recommend to the town that they just eliminate that whole, that's actually what protects the town's investment.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe
And I
she,
think-
I don't know if Mary's still there, but maybe she misunderstood that, they're getting into the property building thing. But otherwise, it has to sit on something and it can't be unsightly or dirty or trashy. So,
Right, and
These
I
are
mean,
good
you wouldn't want a camper or a large fencing or something put up that would obstruct the view of the building.
right.
Or
So where'd you went?
harm the
I hope she
building.
comes back because
Yeah.
I'd like to understand what thinking was there because she said something about it's covered in other places. Well, that's good, but it's also covered here. So why take it out? It just substantiates.
Well, I don't
it.
think any of those points are actually covered anywhere else in the agreement. It just
Yeah.
describes,
Prohibited.
Well, just talking about general condition and
I think only because they had to do with the property, not the building is why. It's
So
probably
what?
that really is a pretty standard group of restrictions. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Really broad.
And I understand she says that's only common sense, but not everyone uses the same common sense.
And I mean, if this church group left tomorrow and another group came in, we need to have it spelled out.
Yeah.
right.
They can't open up a
So-
can down there.
So at this point, I think I'm
Right.
hearing people aren't comfortable with taking that out. I know I'm not,
Yeah, I'm not.
for one. So
And I
I'm-
think they're directly related to the building itself.
I do too. So the consensus seems to be that I'd like to have her try to explain it to us, maybe.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up her phone number again. I know I have it. Hold on.
Well, and then on D, it says updating. That's talking about, utility lines. That's a practical thing that might have to happen in the future. So that's reasonable, but
Mhm.
it's covered in there. So, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So it might need, somebody to have to work on the electric lines or something, of course. But
and I don't
So she
think,
just
I don't
put
think the town,
updating. What?
I don't think the town has changed any rules. I mean, I think you can still have above ground power lines. You don't have to go under.
Yeah,
the shores.
right. So until she comes back, maybe we could move on a bit and then get, oh, there she is.
There we go.
Oh, good.
come back? Okay, hold on. Come on, Mary. Come on. She's not showing up. I mean,
I
she's
see
showing up
her.
there, but she's not.
I
Can
see
you
the
hear us,
name.
Mary?
Oh, I see, she's muted though, or something.
Yeah.
There.
Now she's unmuted.
She's
Okay.
Are you there,
I'm
Mary?
sorry, my phone went dead, literally.
Oh.
It's my laptop here, so I'm on the laptop now. Oh my gosh, right in the middle of conversation. I'm sorry, guys.
That's all
No
right.
worries.
Well, I'm here. Okay, I'm back. Oh, let me put the video on.
Okay.
Okay. I'm back.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
We thought you got a call and got knocked off.
No, I didn't realize that my power was dwindling that quickly.
No, on your phone, I know. my
Lovely
phone.
cell phones, they're great, but sometimes they drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm on the
Okay.
laptop. Okay.
All right, so we were talking about you want to delete B, C, and E, and go ahead, tell us your reasoning.
Yeah, basically because they pertain strictly to the area or the property of the church. They're not relegated to the building, which is the scope of the work. So that's our thoughts on that. Obviously, A, the building shall not be moved, demolished, removed, or raised is common sense, but pertains to the building. And the no above ground utility transmission lines, that was in the other document that I looked at on the PCP website. And so I realized that that is, probably a standard statement that they use. But I did add for updating, the existing building if we had to put anything in that needed to be updated. And if we updated a kitchen or something like that. The other, parts basically refer to, the grounds of the building, not to the actual building itself.
Yeah, but the grounds and the building are inextricably linked. So no other buildings or structures, including camping or whatever, cell towers. So why would you want the ability to have that in there?
Well, for instance, in the future, we have a small shed here that's not the best, but in the future, if we wanted to put a better storage area for tools and for those kinds of things, because we don't have a space here, this would restrict us from doing that. It's just simple things, nothing major, but I don't think that restricting what we do on the property is part of the agreement with the scope of work on the outside of the building. We'll use common sense and keep things clean and neat and picked up. That's normal. Wear and tear.
So
Can I-
addressing, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't see you guys. I'm looking at the agreement, but I think that with a barrier, for example, if you guys decided, well, we want to put up a solid 6-foot fence around the property, so you wouldn't be able to see the church as the public going down the street. I mean, I think that's a fair restriction. There shouldn't be. If we're going to put the money into the beauty of the building to have it be a historic landmark in our town, you shouldn't have the right to fence it out from the view of the public. I'm not saying you would.
I agree with that, but if you want to make it specific to something a certain size, for instance, we have a couple of trees that I think are going to be coming down out here.
But that's
So
not
if
the
we
area.
wanted to plant another tree that's going to come up, or in the back of the building where we're going to have our wood stored, we'd probably put some kind of a, nice area around it so that the wood is stored neatly.
It's so-
And again, that would be something that in, according to this, would not be appropriate. So,
It's so,
What?
Mary, this is talking about a barrier. I mean, a barrier,
well,
I mean,
if
I
if
guess
some
you could argue-
barrier, a fence or something growing on the property. We just
Yep.
planted a new tree this spring that was given to us, a dogwood tree out there. And, if we wanted to, plant rose bushes on a little picket fence or something, is that going to be an issue? I'm just showing these out as examples, but that was very,
well, what if we put between it says which would impair? If we put in the word which would substantially impair the visibility from the street of the property.
yeah, that would be helpful because, obviously, we're not going to put up a huge fence or.
Right, in the town, the
something like that.
state might come by and,
Well, we're not going to plant arborvitaes or something out there.
well,
But,
why don't- I would do that. I would keep the basic idea, because you might also at some point have to put a guardrail up, I don't know, but that's a busy street. And the state would do that, right? But this is just impair the visibility, but I think substantially would be a fair addition to that.
yeah,
because I agree.
I could agree with that because that would limit to what they're talking about,
And then I think also with E, where it says no other building and structure. I mean, that might be one where you added what you have at the end of B, which is without prior approval of the grantee. Because I could see a situation where if you finally had the money and you wanted to install, say, an elevator, so you didn't have to destroy the staircase to get up to the sanctuary, that would be another.
Well, that would come under the structural changes, and that's already addressed in the rest of the document. Because it would affect the exterior of the building. If we did something like that, that would already fall under the clauses that talk about, making substantial changes to the outside of the building. Obviously, that's already part of the restriction.
Which is something you can do with the consent of the town.
Mhm,
It's not
yep.
a direct prohibition. My
Right.
problem with E is it doesn't have a except with the consent of the town kind of agreement, without prior
That's
approval.
what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the rest of the agreement. There is a clause that talks
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
Right.
before we I just want to get back to the wood pile because I was hoping that the wood pile could be toward the back once you get that man door
Right,
in the
that's
back.
exactly what our plan
Because
is.
as it is,
Right.
it obstructs
We
the view from,
We
yeah.
agree.
So
Yeah.
we're thinking the same things, but maybe we're not thinking them in the same order. So that would be a welcome. In fact, we could make it a volunteer thing and move the thing even this year. I'm just, because I was wondering about that. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
what
we're
your
on-
intent will be, to move the wood pile to the back?
Correct, right.
Okay.
But again, that particular refers to the outside, what we're doing on the outside of the building, and it doesn't pertain to the structure of the building itself, so.
It
that's fine.
doesn't, but they're
But it
so,
could.
they're linked. They're linked.
Yeah, something on the property could either detract from the value of the view of the property or could harm the property itself if there was mobile home parked out there and something happened to that, but then could impact the building.
Then you start stepping in the middle of, I know there's issues with some people in town about church and state. And they have concerns about the town or whatever, having any kind of say over what's going on, being connected to the church. And, one of the main points that we had with others who had that particular argument is that, this is about the exterior of the building. It's not about what goes on at the church or what we do at the church. It's not connected in any way to our faith, that kind of thing. This is an agreement or a historical preservation of the outside of the building.
But you
So
still don't want dumping of ashes, trash, rubbish, or any other
Well,
unsightly. or
sure, I mean,
offensive
that's just common
So
sense.
let's leave it in. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just another layer of protection for everybody, isn't it?
No,
It-
well, what
and
will
Mary-
happen is then if someone has one little complaint about something, for instance, this agreement says that if for some reason we are, they find an issue with something that's in this agreement, they can pull the money and not give it to us or stop the payment. And, that would be the last thing I would want to see happen if someone complained or had an issue with us for any reason at all, and use this in order to try to stop the payment on for the church. And that just makes no sense.
Well,
I
Mary,
don't think,
I just think that I know you look at today and where you're at, but we're looking at 20 years down the road. So again, we're not going to pull the money, especially if you're going to have this thing done in 3 to 4 months, unless you're going to do one of these things in the next 3 or 4 months. Once the money's paid out, it's paid out. So, I mean, if you're going to do something, like you said something about doing a new wood structure. Well, you already got a structure there. So if you're improving that structure, you're not building a new one, you're improving the one that's already existing, right? So that's not going to be an issue. And
No,
again, we're not
we would
we're
put
not
a
gonna
new,
come
we would put
back.
a new one there.
We can't come back and take the money back once we've paid the vendor, because we pay the vendor directly for doing his work. So I don't think you have to be concerned about that. But my thoughts are, what you guys are doing right now, I think is wonderful. It's perfect. I mean, great arrangement with you guys and the town. We want to get this done. We really all want to get this done. We're just really trying to protect our investment into the future once you guys pack up and leave, because the next people coming in might not have common sense. They might they might put like
Yeah, but it
500
doesn't-
dumpsters out there. That's all I'm
But
trying
it
to
still
say.
doesn't, that's why we took out property and left the building, because it's not about the property, it's about the building.
I understand that, but if
is
we
our-
put $100,000 into beautifying your building and the yard looks like a junkyard, that's not going to go well.
Well, of course not. And we're putting probably at least $100,000 into it ourselves. And why would we do that? Why would we do that? Because we care about the building, we care about the historical value, we care about the town, we care about being here.
And again,
I
you
think
care
putting
about
this
that, but that
clause
doesn't
in
mean
there,
it doesn't mean the people who follow you are going to care about that. I mean,
What's
because
that?
really, I mean, let's look at the history of this. In 3 years, you're the second brand new people who have come asking for the same amount of money. So 3 years
well, I was
ago,
here with
or-
the last group.
okay. But the other people,
Okay.
I mean, how many of those other people are still with you? A lot of them moved on.
We've only had a few people then, and we have a few people now, so it's not a huge congregation,
regardless
but
of-
we've accomplished a lot in that time.
Most
of it is in
I
theory.
absolutely commend you for that. I'm just thinking, looking into the future, like whoever's here 10 years from now. Hopefully it will be you and your group.
Yeah, but they're
Okay.
already taken care of as far as the building. Most of the document talks about taking care of the building and taking care of what's here
this,
and preserving the property.
I can email out probably 3 or 4 tonight. Historic deed restrictions, they almost all uniformly have this language. These are the things that are on file for the properties. So if the properties are sold or transferred, these restrictions follow whomever owns the next property, whatever it might be, church, house, whatever that's been deemed historic by different communities. This isn't something targeting one particular group. And the grant money, once that was voted at town meeting, it's voted, it's approved, it's expended. The town can't come back and say, Mr. Smith doesn't like your fence, so he wants to take back the money. That's not how it works. It's just not.
All of these things are directly related to protecting that building. What's around it on the property affects the building itself and the historical value.
So can I just say something as Alice here? If you take B and you add with the barrier to the barrier one that would substantially impair the visibility, if that
Mhm.
solves that one. And then if we go to C, if you look at it, this isn't that you can't have these things on the property. It prohibits the dumping of them on the property. So it means allowing people to come in and dump any of these things. It isn't just casual accumulation. You know, there's a verb there, it's dumping. So I
Okay,
think
yeah,
that
that makes a difference, I guess.
Okay, and then,
Or
But we
excessive,
do
or
have a wood
excessive.
stove, and we do have an area in the back where we put the ashes, as most people who have a wood stove in the area know that, where they have a place where they put the ashes, so.
Yeah, but most people don't end up with a big giant ash pile. I'm sure it'll be
Oh,
buried.
no, of course not.
You could
but-
use it in a
Grass.
garden or something, yeah.
I think this is
Ash pile is gonna be a
designed to
huge
prevent
issue.
these properties for becoming a dumping ground, because it says dumping. I mean, if
Yeah.
it said the accumulation or I don't know, dumping to me is dumping. So I think that's
Like
the prohibition.
truckloads.
And then in E, I think that I think that you could moderate that by adding the same language at the end without prior approval of the grantee. Because I think Mary's got a point, is that, if she needs a new shed, or there needs to be, there ought to be a way she can just go to the town and say, we're gonna replace this shed, and this is reasonable.
Yeah.
I also think there's an important interest in the town of not having, some major you couldn't put a cell tower on it anyway, because it's
No,
not,
we would never do that anyway. That's
but
not
any
healthy.
other, new structure, I don't know, I mean, it's a historic
There's no
building.
room.
I think, well, somebody leaves, you've seen these lovely old churches that have horrible big additions added on them that nobody thought, that are kind of ruin the church. They weren't done right. I mean, I think that's a kind of fair, and you wouldn't want to set up, I don't know, camping accommodations. I think that seems fair. Other mobile homes.
Mobile
No,
home?
of course not. Yeah. I
It
mean,
doesn't
that's
belong
common
on a
sense.
church parking lot. So,
That's
the
common
other-
sense.
The
I
other
just
thing is the property's so small, it's very
It's a
small,
tiny little parcel,
that the town would really restrict what you could do there anyways.
it's a
know,
tiny parcel, let's
yeah.
face it.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
mean, you
room to
wouldn't-
grow. That's
mean,
our
once-
problem with storage, because we don't have storage in the church.
Yeah,
But you could do without prior approval of the grantee, and you could even say after that, which shall not be unreasonably withheld.
yeah, that makes that a little stronger.
and
Yeah.
maybe on C, you can write excessive dumping instead of just dumping. I mean, if that.
No.
Or
just
dumping
leave it
from
dumping.
off-site.
All right, that's fine, I don't care.
Leave it at just dumping.
Okay, but,
And Alice, what was that last thing you thought to add? Which should not be unreasonably withheld?
Yeah, so right now it has no way out for her to just go to the top town and say, look, we need a new shed, right? So if you add the same language that appears at the end of B, without prior approval of the grantee, and then if she's worried that they're going to be too strict, you can add to that, which shall not be unreasonably withheld. That's a very
That
common.
strengthens that then.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is that okay, Mary? That
Yeah, that would qualify it, because I do know our storage situation here is awful, and someday there will need to be a new storage shed.
and that would be
That's-
welcomed, Mary, because the one that's there
Yeah.
is really small and it's.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not the right
it's a little
thing. We
bit
know that it's
unsightly.
not
I'm
the right
just
thing.
saying it like I see it, but yeah,
and
we're-
and
we're-
you're,
we're all
And the
trying to
bill-
make this work
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
for
And with-
now and the future.
Exactly.
Also,
And,
it's-
and with building a shed, just so you know, Mary, or you don't know, there's restrictions in town as to how big you can do it. And how far away it has to be from the property line. So you think you can just go build a shed? Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can if it's under 10 by, I think if it's 10 by 10 or 10 by 12, you can build it. But if it's over 10 by 12, you have to get permission, it has to set back from property
Oh,
line,
I
stuff
know.
like that.
There's a
So
lot
you're
of
gonna-
rules.
You're gonna run into those rules anyways, so.
Yeah.
But
So
all
I
this,
mean, you can-
all this does is give her a way. The town can't blanket prohibit changes for
Right.
buildings.
Yeah.
But also, they can't unreasonably withhold you know, so it gives the court a chance, if it were to be challenged, to say, well, this is a church, you know, they need a place to store their records that's secure, or they need lawn equipment, or, you know, it gives her,
Yeah.
so it moderates it a bit. And I'm just trying to get us through this. So I think those are reasonable a reasonable way to not change the wording too much, the ideas, but to tamper down what Mary's concern is, that is somebody's just going to be unfair about it, you know, arbitrary, right?
Right.
It would say, well, you can't plant a hedge, or you can't, you know, so substantially, let's moderate it that way. And then I think it works. And I do
Taylor,
think
did you
it's
get that?
dumping. Dumping is dumping. It's not,
Yeah,
Not fireplace ashes.
yes.
okay.
That sounds reasonable.
All right,
So
so I
not,
mark
Kayla,
those
you good
down.
with
No,
that?
so we're not deleting, but we're adding to both B and E.
right.
So the wording on the, no
Annie.
barrier shall be constructed, erected, or allowed to grow on the property, which would substantially
Right.
impair the visibility from the street. So that would not preclude us from putting a fence in the back behind where we're gonna put the wood pile.
Right. You could say, actually.
I mean, it's the back of
visibility-
the building, so it's not even gonna be seen a whole lot from the street, so.
I think you could strike property in that line. Well, maybe I'm going to get in trouble with the committee, but where you say no barrier shall be.
Of the, yes, of the building instead of the property,
Which
yeah,
would substantially impair visibility from the street of the building.
of the building, yeah. Because the
Oh,
back of the
without
building is
property,
not
okay.
visible from the street as it is.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm putting these, Kayla, I'll give you these notes afterwards too.
Glad we have a
Also
lawyer on the group.
documenting.
Strike building. Yeah, okay. All right, I got it. Okay, let's go on. What else is there?
Looks like the next one is 3.3.
Oh, yeah, I got my things mixed up, okay.
Wait, I thought we're not involving the Massachusetts Historical Commission.
we're not.
Yeah. Because we're doing the local historical.
So do
Yeah,
three
that's
apply
really-
even? The conduct of archaeological activities on the property.
Oh, so
Page to be on.
archaeological activities were to occur on site, that would require additional approval of Mass Historic.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that, but as long as it says that it's for the outside.
On the property,
Lost
including.
my
the
track here.
Will may occur. Oh, okay, may occur, you want to say on the exterior grounds, only
Correct.
following. I think we could do that, couldn't we?
Yeah, it's fine.
I think you're gonna dig through the building, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. We're not, gonna be excavating out there. Looking.
We'll
to
say if
tear
there
it
was
down.
an Indian
Could we
burial
make that-
ground, you know, they're looking out for these sorts of things because
Sure.
to protect them, but I don't think that's a problem there. There's no cemetery there either, like at the first church.
No,
All right.
We could
and
put in
now we're-
exterior.
Now, we're down to
I
4, standards for review 4, and we're just changing the property to the building.
Yep.
Okay,
my document here.
so then we're going to administration and enforcement. That's the next thing.
And it looks like this is the same inspection paragraph that we marked up last
That
meeting.
we marked it, yeah, I think you're right. If relevant to the exterior of the building.
So, yeah, in my notes from the last meeting, we added the sentence fragment, if relevant to the structure of the building. which
Yep.
is Same as what you wrote.
That's 13 then, right?
Yes. And then 14, we're just removing property. That's fine. Let's see, nothing on the next page. So we're all the way down to extinguishment 21.1, and again, just changing property to building.
Yep.
Okay,
Same for 22. Yeah.
22, yeah, A. And 23.
Yep, that was it.
That was that. Oh, yeah, and the last, on the restriction guidelines, we also did that, the exterior to the exterior of the building. We talked about that last time.
I don't think we changed anything there, though.
There's a building property on the last page, property to building, but.
Yeah.
Correct?
Uh,
On
Correct.
the restriction
Exterior
guidelines?
to the building, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exterior.
Just to the
And that-
exterior.
And here
No, no,
again, it's mostly common sense. You check with the historic commission before anything major would be.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
problem with the word exterior, just because
Here.
I would prefer the word structure or building structure, because a structure, of a building, a wall has two sides. So I just want to make sure that like nothing major is happening to the wall on the inside, which is technically the structure of the building.
Okay,
That's
so.
my only concern.
Well, if it
With
affects
adding
the
exterior.
exterior,
Right, yeah.
Where was that structure versus exterior
Um,
language?
under restriction guidelines, the very first paragraph has a
What?
hand markup to add the word exterior.
What number?
It's not numbered. It's the second to last page under restriction guidelines. These have paragraph numbers.
Oh. Okay, in the first paragraph.
Yeah. Second sentence, or the first sentence.
but I don't, it's not talking about any interior walls or anything here. This is all exterior. If it
So
affects.
that was
the
Kayla's
exterior of
point
the
though,
building.
right? The
What's that?
wall has two sides.
Right,
So in other words, you're saying you can't do anything to the interior that's going to change the exterior of the building
right,
by saying the structure.
right.
So that's really the same thing, just using different language.
Yeah, I think as long as it's pertaining to the exterior and not to the interior. I mean, that's what we have on the other one, that if something affects the exterior, you know, that's prohibited.
Yes.
Oh, he said, can you say, so you talk about the first sentence, which
first
deals
line.
with the alteration of the exterior where Mary's penciled that in?
Hmm.
Because why couldn't you
Yes.
put exterior
Exterior structure,
structure of the building?
yeah,
'Cause
that's fine.
interior structures of the building as well, right? Like a wall that you wanted to put a hole through or something. Exterior structure? I don't know.
Exterior structure or exterior building is fine with me.
Kayla, was it Kayla that raised that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if we add the word structure, that encompasses.
Exterior structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have to strike, we don't have to strike exterior, we can just add structure, is what I'm saying.
Mhm. Yep,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay.
Do you want to put the man door, notate that that's going to happen before the siding?
Yes.
Just
I
so
think
we're
it's
all
good you know
aware that-
Yeah,
That, you know, these folks are planning to put a door on the north side where there's just a window. So we
Right, I
all know
wanted
that.
to
Could
know,
that be
you know.
notated somewhere?
I
Or is-
wanted to find out where to note that, because I wasn't sure where to put it.
So the man door status completed before the siding so that they can work around that rather than,
Correct.
so we're all aware that's happening, right?
Yeah. And I don't think that needs
all
to
okay
be
with it?
the preservation restriction, because we know it's happening ahead of time.
Okay, so I mean, it would be nice to just have it notated. I don't know exactly where that should be.
Yeah, I was wondering myself where to put it.
I don't
Is
think.
Is
it
there something
needs to
called
be
a
in the-
codicil or something?
I don't think it needs
Alice.
to be in this agreement because we're restricting we're restricting the preservation into the future, and this is something that's gonna happen now.
Oh, okay, well, as long as we're all
We're just
aware
gonna
of it.
alter it, right? They're just altering it now in order
Okay.
to do the signing.
All right, I'm fine with that, just as long as we all are aware and we're all okay with it. And it's actually a good idea, because then the wood pile will be right there behind you, and it's much more convenient. Which
That's
brings me,
You're
And-
obsessed
and
with
this
that
is-
wood pile, aren't you?
well,
I
I'd
don't
love to
even
see it
I
move,
don't
like
even know if I can
tomorrow.
put piles there. I don't
I'll
even know if I can
volunteer
put
to
a pile there.
help. Just think, the 6 of us could have it done in no time.
I don't even know if I've noticed the wood pile there, to be honest.
When we get our new door in, it'll
I
get
keep-
moved pretty quick.
I just keep looking and I'm like, oh, they have a nice new sign. And then I'm like, oh, it'll be nice when this gets sided, you know? So,
Yeah.
So that actually brings us to the end of this, but of course, I've got 2 things I just want to address, is this a good stopping place, though? I mean, we pretty
does it
much.
have to do with this?
Yes, yeah.
So I just want to talk to Mary for a minute before, it has to do with this, you're saying? Oh, so we're
Yes.
not done talking about it then. Okay.
No, not quite. Remember, we had that conversation about how to treat the Gothic non-windows, but the spaces? I
was
I
gonna
went
ask
back
about
and
that too. What
Pardon?
happened? I was gonna ask what happened with that too.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to talk with the people yet about the Gothic windows.
I
Mary?
did, I did speak to them. They would do the trim on them as they're doing the trim on the other windows. And leave the inside as it is, like with a, I don't know what's up there, plywood, but we talked to them, I talked to them about, no, they wouldn't side in the middle of it. They would just leave, I think it's plywood or something that's up there.
Well, I'm just wondering, I went back and looked at the pictures and everything, and that originally those windows weren't there. So if we're trying to be original, it just would look so much better to just have it.
Take them out, yeah.
Well, not take them out. You could leave the openings underneath, I guess, but to just put the siding across on the east side, on the west side, and on the north. Because
We would
otherwise,
like to do that. That would be our choice, to be honest with you. But we
Well,
also
from-
were curious about opening up that and finding out if the windows behind there have not been tainted by the weather all these years. and
you
are-
could reuse them somewhere else.
Yeah, we could replace a
Ooh.
couple of the windows that are up in them. So we're kind of interested to see what's behind there. We don't know whether there's an actual window up there.
Yeah.
That's in
Wouldn't
good
that be
condition.
great? That'd be
It'd be
true.
wonderful, yeah.
Yeah. Guys, what do you think?
Didn't we
I
decide,
feel,
I'm just trying to remember, didn't we decide at our last meeting that we were gonna leave it up to the vendor as to the best way to handle those windows? Is that what we decided?
well, and it was
Right.
kind of up in the air still, but if seems to me, for their purposes, it would be more efficient to just go across rather than fuss
Yeah.
with 4 more windows, non-windows, because they're not windows on the inside, correct?
Right, but it is a frame,
not
so
what it-
we'll have to,
Yeah.
I guess until they can actually get up there and look at it and see what
I
kind of
mean,
construction.
that
it's
would
gonna be.
be, when I look at the historical, because it said, oh, it's 1827, and then a few years later, it was enlarged, and then they switched around the pulpit, and then they finally moved it. So it's gone through some iterations, shall we say. So what will look the best now, and what's most efficient from a siding viewpoint? Unless somebody feels strongly, I think it looks unfinished with those holes there myself. Anybody feel
mean-
strongly one way or the other?
I think if the vendor feels it's just good to just go right straight across and not do anything with them, I think that's the best way to handle that, but.
Oh, I would lean in that direction too. And if someday somebody gets mega bucks and wants to, put all fresh new windows, that'd be great. They could always do that then too.
Keep playing
So-
that power bomb.
Yeah, really. So,
I know.
okay, so Mary, is that consensus from everybody that if you guys are feeling that way, and I can almost guarantee they're feeling that way, They don't have to.
Yeah,
fuss
it would
with
probably be the
someone.
easiest for us is to be able to just remove those frames and go right across them.
Yeah, it
But
would look.
again,
look better.
we're anxious to see what's behind it because
Yeah.
if we find good windows, it'll be wonderful if we could take them out and use them for replacement. on
That
the
would be
other
a
windows
real
that are
blessing. That would
Would
be
your vendor
great.
do that for
in
you?
such rough shape.
Would the
No.
vendor do that for you? I mean, he might as well. He's got-
No, we would probably have to have someone do that for us.
Okay. All right,
So,
the second thing, Susan.
well, and this is gonna be a hard one, or it could be an easy one. There was some concern about, is it gonna be residential? And right now, we have Scott, and he's a caretaker or a maintenance person, and that's actually a good idea. And it could be a good idea into the future to have an apartment of sorts for a resident caretaker, maintenance person, security also, with occasional guests, meaning the boys at this point in juncture, to grandfather that in the way it is now. But once that situation, the boys will grow, they're gonna, do whatever they do as adults. Does that sound like a good way to compromise? In other words, have a caretaker apartment sort of be okay, but not to have it turn into a residence in general.
Can
I
I
don't
just
think there's nothing in the agreement here at all with it.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's the one big thing in my mind that it's kind of up in the air.
Can I just interject for one quick second, though?
Yeah,
This committee proposed to the town and the town accepted and voted and approved this money for the renovation or the restoration of a historic building. Its use, whether it be residential or religious, is not the town or this committee's concern. If the church went under tomorrow and disappeared and it got sold as a residence, whoever bought it would have to maintain the physical appearance outside. They'd also have to get occupancy permit and all the rest, which is a whole different situation. But I don't think the deed restriction even should be delving into that. If the town has a problem with it being a residence or doesn't have an occupancy permit, then the town would act on that. There's a board that'll act on that. The CPC doesn't do that.
you've raised a lot of good
I agree.
points. Okay,
I
well
agree.
then, when people ask me, well, why are people still living there or whatever?
And then the
well,
people can
because it was
go to,
precedent. It was precedent.
the people can go to the town, whomever, like the building inspector, whomever, if they think there's an objection to someone living in any building in town.
Yeah,
And that's where the people should be directed, not to CPC. We're buying the restoration of a historic building. That's what we've proposed for the town. That's what the town voted to approve.
Yeah, that's consistent, and you stated it very clearly. I'm just curious though, Marion, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I know we're almost at a good stopping place, and I feel like this is moving forward, and that's terrific. But I'd be curious, and I didn't want to bug you because I knew you had to get ready for tonight and do whatever, but what's your vision for, say, the Fellowship Hall, as a community place? Because that partly ties in with it being a residence. Having an apartment and a separate part that people live in is one thing, but the Fellowship Hall, as it is right now, I don't see it as a public place right now.
Oh,
am I
it's quite
making it
public. We have public services here 3 times a week.
really? Because it
Yeah.
sort of struck me as a kind of living room, sort of.
No, it's quite usable for a worship space and how we worship and what we do here. Everyone is welcome to come and join us and worship the Lord here. So we're open and we're
okay.
having services.
Well, then a vision for the sanctuary upstairs, which was covered before. Remember, they could do anything they want to the interior, but a memorandum of understanding that you are going to guard that sanctuary space, which I think is what your intent is, right? The upstairs.
Oh, we'd like to
you
see
would-
it completely redone eventually. That would be
Yeah,
wonderful.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, redone historically, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd raise it because it's just something to consider. It is your building, we get that, and your point is well taken, Danielle, that we are just doing the outside, but it's a big gigantic step forward. So, okay, we'll continue to work together.
We
to
have plenty of
make it
room
as-
for people. We have 50 seats plus downstairs right now for services. So right now, the main thing that would prevent us from having upstairs services is there is no handicap access.
Right, right.
And that's part of the issue, as well as we only have one handicap bathroom now, which we had none before, but now we do have one. But because we don't have two, we can't go over an occupancy of a certain number. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
unless we wanted to add on a bathroom, which we have no intentions of doing.
So you can only have 99 people and they'll look for the one sheet, right? Okay, I
People
got
are
it.
89 or something, 89 and a half or something, some
Yeah,
odd number that we
okay.
have that we can fit here, but.
Yeah.
um,
So what's,
Good.
what would be the next step then? So bring this to the select board with the changes so they can,
Yes, so they have to sign off on it. Excuse me. So
and the
we,
other-
so what we'll do is we will bring this to, Alice, maybe if you can get this information to David, and just have him make this, they're really quite small changes. So it can be prepared, so the Board of Selectmen can look at it on Monday.
I can certainly do those three we changed. I
Mhm.
have, what I'm looking at that doesn't make any sense to me. Can I just point it out to you guys and you could, they've sort of been distracted. If you look under section paragraph 23, because this residential issue came up, I mean, it's a long convoluted paragraph, but it says, it talks about amending the agreement. If circumstances arise, you need to modify it. It
Okay.
says, any such amendment shall be consistent. This is sort of at the end of the very last couple lines on the page under 23. Any such amendment shall be consistent with the protection of the preservation values of the property and the purpose of this preservation restriction agreement, shall not affect its stated duration, and shall not permit residential development on the property, which then she's changed would be of the building, shall not prevent any private inurement to any person or entity. I mean, I just, the residential development on the property shall not permit residential development. Does that, the fact that we have a resident in the property?
that could be grandfathered in. That's kind of
a
my point. It's,
I'm just not talking about development though.
It's
Yeah.
a development, yeah.
Oh, all right, because it says
Right.
residential development. All right, that's fine. I was just trying to poke through it and see if there are any other.
what's
Any other-
inurement? What does inurement mean? And then
It
after this,
means,
shall not per-
create a right,
Oh,
to
okay.
any person or
private
entity.
creation of a right to any person or entity.
Okay.
Private, and but this is, let's see. Private inurement to any
Shall
person.
not adversely impact the overall architectural, historic, and open space values protected by this. Yeah, that's all good stuff. So that's why I'm wondering if it could be that the maintenance caretaker apartment is grandfathered in, as so that it's something that we know about and support,
I don't
especially
think
from
it's
its.
preventing that. I don't
Yeah, I
think,
don't think so either.
Okay,
No,
It's
that's an odd
developing.
sentence.
Yeah, it's just, I was trying to figure out what it,
Odd.
why they would say that, but this is a paragraph that relates to amending the
Ah,
agreement, right?
Mhm.
So I think it
Which-
relates to if, say, the church decided, well, we're just gonna create private condominiums out of this, right? Convert the upstairs as well. They couldn't do that. I think that's what that's saying.
And I'm sure there's town ordinances that wouldn't allow them to do that.
Anyway, I think it's a rabbit hole I went down. I'm happy to. sit with these changes.
Okay, Alice. Okay, Alice.
That's what
Yeah.
Alice's do, right? It's
Odd
what I-
statement, I don't know exactly what it, I'm not sure
That
what
was a
it means.
good one. We
Alice.
walked right into that one.
I have the few changes that we put in, and I'll copy everybody on it. Well,
Okay.
actually, I'll copy Mary and Sanda and Kayla, because Kayla's doing the notes, and then Sanda, you can send it to everybody if you want, because I'm not sure I have everybody's email.
No, that's fine. And what I'll do is I'll send it to David so he can change it. He should be able to just change it with the copy he has. I mean, I don't think any of this has to go to legal to change. We're just changing such minor things. So because, so I will check to see if we should be on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen for the 10th to discuss this. And so I don't know, Mary, I can let you know. I don't know if you want to come. If not,
Yes,
maybe
we
it's
should
something
go.
you can, maybe it's something you can electronically sign, because I actually think they're going to all Zoom meetings. That's
Yeah, they
what-
will be going all, yeah,
Yeah.
you will be able to go in person. But I think
Hello.
Mary should tune in.
Alice, on that last one that you just stated on the last page there, do you think
Yeah.
we should leave it as residential development on the property and not change it to building? Maybe I did that one and it should have stayed property.
Yeah, I think that should stay.
Yeah,
property.
so that one should stay property. Take off building. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I thank you for noticing that one. I got
Okay, I
kind of
think-
tired at the end and I was anxious to try to get it to you guys
I know, that's
ahead
fine.
of time.
I think that's right. 23, we'll leave as property.
Yeah,
Because
leave it
nothing
as
says
property.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go through this and I'll also strike out those whereas clauses. You know, I'll put red strikes through them. So he knows we're leaving them out, right? And I'll send it out. Anybody can, you send it to David though, Sand, after you read it.
Yeah,
And
that's fine.
Mary too, okay?
And I appreciate you doing this while you're on vacation in New
Yeah.
Hampshire.
All right, guys, all right. I want to see it happen.
Yeah, I know. I think we all do. I think we all do. Anyone
Anxious
else
to
have anything else they
get
want to
going.
discuss?
Nope.
So, Mary, you can leave if you want. I do have one other thing to discuss with the committee. So it is January. January is the month that we take new applications, and I did check with Lori and no one
Hi, all.
submitted new application. Hi,
Hi,
Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Thank you.
Hi. Night.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you.
So, so anyways, we have no new applications at this time. Is everyone fine with not having another January meeting unless we get some applications provided to us?
I
I'm fine
just,
with that.
What?
just sort of a housekeeping thing, the annual report, I'll volunteer to do it again. I'll just basically use last year's and pop in the new projects. But everybody needs to look at it before it would. So could I just do that and send it out to everybody for an okay?
Yeah, and or
So we
you
don't
can
need a
just-
meeting.
No, and you can just do it and then we can just make adjustments if we need to, but I'm sure you're doing a great job. I'm doing the ones for parks and my boys on parks could care less when I'm writing. So, you know, because it's like you, I just add in what new projects we've done for the year because
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
really changes.
Okay,
yeah,
so that's
fine.
gonna be in the works. I thought about it, but I haven't done it yet.
That is important to know though, where our money stands. So. yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Do we
Oh,
have,
and the
But that's not, but the money isn't given in the annual report. You don't write down the money. You just kind of talk about what your committee's done.
Last year I put the surcharge and then the state match and then the interest. So that's
Oh,
what I
okay.
did last year. And this year the state match was significant. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of nice for people to see
Mhm.
because it was 34 point something percent. It was 27,000.
Yeah, it was really high.
I have it right here.
oh, you're talking about our town annual report. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
it was $27,058.
Nice.
yeah, definitely put that in. That's great.
Yeah.
Especially since there's a lot of criticism. Well, people tell me there are, people don't talk to me, but anyway, about CPC, that's taxpayer money. If they realize the state's matching it so grandly, we won't have as much pushback, you know?
Well, they'll still complain, but they'll be happy when they drive by the church and they'll
Well-
be happy.
No, they'll be happy. We're getting state matches for it, you know, it isn't all
Yeah.
coming out of local pockets, right? So I
Right.
think that's important to put in there.
Right.
Do we have any articles on the annual town meeting? for CPC.
This coming up
Coming up in
Coming up
June?
this June? No,
Yeah.
we have no money to spend until we
Yeah,
put more
that's
in
what-
there.
Well, the only thing we would
That's what
have to
Sandra's
put,
saying.
the only thing we would have to put up is the, spending of the debt that we already have that we have to pay, like the playground's gonna be paid, we have to put that amount in, and the library, I think we have 1 or 2 more years.
So that's
We
about
have to put that up.
$50,000, 51 something or 52 something, just in interest, so.
But
But so
somebody
far,
needs-
we have no applications.
Somebody needs to get those articles, even for the debt service, to David. Is that,
Yep,
is that
But
you?
not till
Cindy?
April.
Okay, 'cause
Yeah,
he's
I
already
sent it once.
bugging me for my articles and planning board, so I know they're beginning to
Oh.
assemble them.
No, so what we'll do is we will find out when the warrant is coming out, and then if we don't have any applications until then we don't have to meet, and I'll keep checking with Lori. She'll let me know anyways when something comes in. And
Yeah.
then we'll just meet to, like I said, do the housekeeping with the debt, and we'll go from there in like March.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it's not gonna break my heart if we don't have to approve a project for a year, because these last 2 projects have been a lot.
It's been a busy year, but a
Yeah.
lot of good things got done, so.
Absolutely,
That's- yeah.
absolutely. And just to bring things up to date, just so people know that the Habitat for Humanity did submit an invoice, and Susan got it paid, so that happened beginning of December or something like that. So that money's gone out to $20,000 for the house. So,
We had a
So that's-
Habitat meeting today and they were very grateful and they mentioned that, so.
well, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Excellent, that's the way it's supposed to be, that's
Yep.
good. Nice.
All right. Anything else?
So we have vacation then for a while, because it's been a busy time. But would it be appropriate to go to I'm curious, I think I'll plan to go to the select board meeting just to see. Did she mention that whether she has the study ready for them?
Yeah, she has to present it. She did get the study report back, and I will just remind
Okay.
her she needs to send that to us so we can
Okay.
send it to them so they can review it. But it sounded like it was just a few minor things they had to get done before they could actually put the siding on.
Excellent, great.
But
Okay.
thank you for reminding me to tell her we need that. So, yeah, that was good. That was really good. That came back good.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be remote, so don't show up until you check the website.
Oh, you
Yeah,
mean for the
exactly.
select board?
Yeah, I think,
Really?
I think the
Oh.
whole town's going remote from what, don't take my word for it though, check
You
it.
know, that makes sense, you're
Yeah.
right.
I heard that today. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna try to write this before I go to bed, because otherwise I won't be able to read my
Yeah,
chicken.
no, that's fine.
So,
Someone want a
Oh.
motion to adjourn?
Yep, motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion. Or we can
I'll
just,
second it.
No, there you go.
all right.
All right, everyone have a nice evening, and we'll be in
too.
touch.